So we're just going to do a little bit of a recap on our day spent in Chumvi, which was Friday the 6th. So Chumvi has a container school which was brought into the community this time last year, following some extensive work by the travelling librarian gang, where initially they found a small kind of preschool underneath a tree. Later in the same year, they built a small corrugated iron hut, which became the classroom. And then, like I said, this time last year, they arranged with Chris from Reading the World for a container to be taken out to the community and converted into a kind of double-sized container classroom. So, who's going to go first? We've got the awkward silence again.
I suppose the journey there was the first kind of reality of the road literally stopped, and then civilization was gone, and then beyond it was terrain that wasn't welcoming, and at some points thought we weren't going to get there.
Yeah. So just for a bit of context, so Chumvi is about an hour and a half from the nearest big town, which is Timau. And like Melanie said, is pretty off-roady.
And they normally travel there by motorbike. You can see why, definitely.
Well, the van was, I was clocking it, and it was only going 7 miles an hour the whole way there because of the terrain. It was something that I've never experienced before in my life.
We had a three-wheel moment and some balancing on the humps, and we all had to get out at one point as well to navigate.
One difference between the Kenyans is they didn't really seem to be worried or bothered or just chilled. It was just maybe our reactions to it just because we weren't used to it. Every crunch of the car, it was like, oh, the car. They were like, oh, it's okay.
Oh, they weren't fiesta, though.
So both the drivers, so we've got two cars, so we've got Dixon and Newton who are driving us, both who we don't really know what their day jobs are. I don't think anybody's had that conversation with them, but they've been with us the whole time, and they're sound guys, but they've never been out to Chumvi either. Obviously they live here, so they're used to fairly rough roads, but I would agree, Elaine, I think that was new to them as well.
I think what got to me as well is the further we were getting along in the journey, the realization that there was nothing around. It was the questioning that I had was, right, well, where do they get their supplies, and how long does it take for them to get their supplies?
Over the tire bursts.
Yeah. And then the reality of when Emily said, if it rains, we're here for the duration.
Yeah.
And that was a bit of a, oh.
The good news is that I guess obviously Lynn and I knew that the night before and took the decision not to tell you guys, so not to increase the anxiety before the drive, and we would deal with the fallout of that when we were there if it happened. But Emily and the gang were prepared. There's the mattresses up in the roof of the school because they've slept there before because of the rain, and equally I don't know if anybody clocks when we stopped for our Canadian friend to use the loo. They were firing in big cans of water into the boots as well, so that there would be hydration if we did have to stay the night.
And there was also a bit of a speedier return journey just because they could see this. You could see the rain coming. Yeah.
I think the journey was a distant memory quite fast when we arrived there, because the welcoming that we got was completely beyond my expectation. The dresses that all the women were wearing, the dances, the music. I don't know about you guys. Your hand. Everybody had somebody taking their hand.
I know, it was almost like the cars hadn't stopped, had it, before you were getting out, because they'd been so welcoming. That was a new experience for me. I've been welcomed like that before, but that felt really authentic and not contrived. Like it was something, obviously they were expecting us, but
they were just like,
it didn't feel like a performance.
No, they were like totally welcoming and friendly and talking to you, and in a familiar way, that you know it more than anything else. It was
To me, it was more than a welcome. It was like an inclusion.
Yeah.
They just made us part of it straight away.
And I think it's a bit like that because Emily has such a strong relationship with anybody and everywhere she goes. They're like, oh, well, you're friends with Emily, you're welcome here, sort of thing. That's what you get everywhere we go, not just there, isn't it? It's like, you're with Emily, that's fine, everything's fine.
Yeah.
I
it
think
was surreal. It was gone from traumatic to let's. It was the singing, it was so passionate, and like the different movements. Yeah,
I just really enjoy doing it. No, that's fine. It looked like you anyway.
I think as well the travelling the travelling librarian gang that have been with us, so John and Dixon and Newton and that were all kind of also sharing that actually they enjoyed it as well, because lots of them won't experience that either because they're just living in the towns. But equally, I think I can't remember who it was and who said what to who, but somebody said that they thought it was like an authentic, it was that, like Elaine said, that inclusion part and not a performance put on for the white purist kind of thing.
No, it didn't feel like that there. They genuinely cared.
Yeah.
so. And then they were so proud to show us their space. So the classroom, and then the tour of the grounds, and what plans that they hope for the area as well. It wasn't without its events, but
let's just move on from that.
It was really kind of them, and again inclusive of them, to show us their space, and they were so proud of it as well. And then to show us forget the name of the
house.
Manyata. Was so generous of them as well, wasn't it? It was inside their actual house and how they live.
And actually, I don't know about you guys, but I was blown away about how warm it was in there, because the fire was just embers. It didn't have much at all, but because it's made from mud, it will retain the heat. And I would imagine there's straw and grass and hay stuffed in the walls as well. So
it just made me think, like, I can't imagine ever just thinking a bunch of strangers, and you come, have a look around my house.
Yeah.
Because it's her home. It's where she
yeah,
lives. And it's like all these folk just traipsing in and taking photos. It's just a better woman than I am.
Yeah.
I've been needing at least 3 weeks preparation to.
It also makes you think, like we're complaining, we've had a bad sleep or whatever, like they had a house hide for their mattress, and in the simple things that they've
got to move because that house is now in the school boundary and whatever, and so that's why there's all those sticks stacking up outside. So starting to prepare to move. Somewhere else.
She built that.
Yeah. So the manyatas are like temporary structures. So they'll easy. You know what I mean? They easily go up and easily go down. But they are. Yeah, it's labour intensive. It's not going to be a quick thing to build. But
since it was a bit of the community bit comes from me, and if it's visiting her and I'll be visiting because I stick along every time they garnish. And that's what I was like.
Yeah, but probably to contribute to the fire.
To
the actual
building.
Okay. Right. Okay.
Yeah, they were telling us a lot about their culture and sharing. They were quite open to
the spear story.
Questions. That probably surprised me as well, because I thought it would be more private.
I think as well I think the Maasai, and I don't know factually, but my assumption of the Maasai and what I've spoken to people about is that they are more welcoming than other tribes. They're kind of outward facing as opposed to inward facing, and so by sharing their stories and cultures and that's why they're slightly more, I guess, forward thinking. Receptive to strangers and travellers and coming in, because they're keen to share their culture with others.
We haven't actually got to the actual school yet, which is what we went to see. But that was the next point, that they took us there and showed us their classroom, which was basic, really. It's a lot more than what they had before, which was under a tree. And they're so proud of what they've got. Yeah. But for us, it was just four walls, really. But
it shows you what can be done with something so small. So shipping containers themselves are not that expensive, really. Yeah. So they've cut off one of the long walls and then lifted it up and then to create that kind of double space and then clad the inside with plyboard. And actually, I thought it was really effective. You know, for an outdoor learning classroom in the UK, it would be great. Yeah.
Thing. So again, didn't just give them that one little space and that's it, watertight and everything. They're like, okay, we can make this better. And they always, they're really skillful at like, right, okay, what's the best thing we can make out of this resource we've got? So, like,
and it's fine for the wee toots that are going because it is a school for basically preschoolers.
And to be fair, I was kind of comparing it to the Millimani classroom, and it was in a way kind of better. There was light coming in. It was warm. The flooring was soft. I think that was more of a positive learning environment than it was at the Millimani.
I thought it was really nice. Basically, actually, I spent a bit of time in there playing with some kids, but it was breezy. The air was coming through. It felt cool. Whereas at Millimani, they're dark. You know, there's one window with a dark floor. So we were able to. So the resources that were in the classroom hanging on the walls were feed sacks that had been sewn with like the alphabet and types of fruit and veg and animals and stuff like that. But we'd been able to print and, well, Jacqueline printed, and I didn't do any of it. Jacqueline printed and laminated all the paperwork to take like bright colours of the alphabet and things like that. So it'd be nice to see when they're up on the wall. And because we'd taken drawing pins as well, the community did a colouring in activity. I can't even remember what they were colouring in, but colouring in animals, I think it was. It was dogs, yes. So they were able to put them up on the wall. So they were able to display their classroom artwork for the very first time. And
the parents were really enjoying it.
Well, it was actually the parents that were doing it, and not so much the children, although they did some. And the parents were really proud to do it and write their names as well.
So there was, Emily said to me about the pictures, the important part is getting the parents to take ownership of the building to encourage them to take their kids to the school. So that when they go into the classroom, the parents can say to the children, right, well, my name is on the wall and here is my picture. I don't know if did anybody speak to Emily about a woman called Stephanie? No. So she mentioned it to me. So there was a mum there called Stephanie who's attending the adult learning classes in the afternoon. So she can't write her own name currently, but she coloured in the dog and somebody had written her name across the top and she'd written numbers for the first time at the top of the page. I don't know what the numbers were, but she was practising her numbers at the top of the page. I took a picture of it. It was really lovely.
Well, and I think there was the older ladies were colouring in as well. Or Newton, one of them said, the grandmas are colouring in too, or something, because he's like, they wouldn't normally get involved. But
one of them was doing it on the other one's back.
We're laughing.
It's like, am I the table? And we're like, are you the table? Totally loving it and focused and
they were intent on
it wasn't just like
colouring and bright. And I think like sometimes I think our kids would colour the whole dog in one colour. Like it was, they were
like rainbow dogs, weren't they?
Everything was really bright always. And same with kids colouring actually. Where we've been, it's like that. It's like bright.
Just thinking that about how much colouring in we have seen over the last 4 or 5 days. It's a lot. And how much colouring in do we do at home with people?
We could have took
nothing,
millions of colouring in books with us. It still wouldn't be enough. Even
everything was gone. All the colouring was gone.
But they're determined to finish the picture as well. Whereas I think we don't maybe have that focus, and we do a little bit, and that's enough. Move on to the next thing.
And the bubbles, they were an experience as well.
Having a child burping bubbles for the next week.
I think good swig on that one before we got the hang.
Everyone enjoyed that, didn't
they? And then they were running away into the distance chasing the bubbles as well. Like, what is this?
They were all like dancing and wanting to show off their dancing, and I did feel quite awkward though when they had prepared the meal with the potatoes for us, and they were given their bits of loaf, and it was overwhelming. And when you seen how happy they got with some of the gifts when Kathleen was presenting them, I burst out into tears, and it's very emotional. There's lots of ways that could describe it in my brain, but I can't.
Not there yet. Not there yet. Yeah.
It's got to come
Yeah.
to words, isn't it? But that makes such a difference to them. Those what we would see as simple resources was meant the world. Yeah.
But they do so much with that. Like that'll be like they'll be able to do loads and loads of writing and whatever.
It was like a proper handing over ceremony for it. You were like.
It makes. I was saying to Melanie at breakfast this morning that type of thing makes me feel really, really awkward and yucky, because I hate coming here and people looking at us as if we are the savior, because we're not. We're just, we're just people who want to make a difference and have a bit of an impact somewhere and share our stories and whatever. And if we can give something back, like Donna said, in return for a hearty meal that we were provided, then why shouldn't we? We don't need the fame and glory for some textbooks that actually, in reality, they're entitled to. Everybody should have the opportunity to learn and have the resources they need to be able to do it.
I remember there was also a little girl. Remember the Chief John was speaking about her not being like the same as all the rest, and it was just the way that they live, and we take things for granted, how our healthcare system and
Yeah, absolutely. I hadn't realised there'd been a child with some sort of additional support needs. It just bypassed me, but I would think it's fairly unusual for them to be out and about in those types of communities. So that was nice for you
guys. I just showed you how progressive it is. She was there in a little uniform, actually. She's quite a good little uniform.
It wasn't the one that had their finger in my ear, was it?
No.
She had a uniform on as well.
She was sitting in between me and Elaine, and Elaine was playing peekaboo with her, and she was interacting fine with it.
Yeah.
They were. I mean, it was good that she was included, but they were quite, I don't know, dismissive of her support needs, and the terminology they used wasn't really what we would see as appropriate.
Yeah.
Speaking of appropriate, I think it was also, I think the fact that we were able to support them getting an actual toilet, given the conditions that they're living in, is like abhorrent, really.
I guess I get just with the context. I guess that what we saw was a hole in the ground with two bits of wood, one for either foot, and the cubicle over the top of it was wood and feed sacks, I think. So
it was corrugated.
Oh, was it? Okay. It had a roof.
Yeah, it had a roof. Corrugated and besides.
But even navigating, if you wanted to go to the toilet at night, like which as 40-year-old women, need to go to the toilet at night, in the pitch black, and it would be, that's a job in its own.
And Emily said that all of them, even the ones with houses and that, they have their toilet really far away from their houses, and I was like, well, if you need to get up in the middle of the night, it's like half a mile to the toilet in the dark in not very good terrain. So just
and the spiders,
Oh yeah.
Yes, that wasn't nice. There was like holes in the ground with lots of webs, but I think the guys tried to pretend it was tarantulas. So I'm quite glad that it never rained and I had to stay there at night, because I would have absolutely been petrified of the spiders.
I think their water source was a good distance from where the school was and where the houses were.
Are they using a borehole? I didn't.
Borehole, and then just have carried over barrels.
I did notice when we were coming up by Chumvi to the tribe area that there was a hospital, and I was hearing the driver and the other guy, Collins, was saying that there wasn't a lot of supplies in the hospital. So if something was to go wrong, like a minor accident or something it would be quite a challenge. And if it was raining, you would think, how on earth would you get to somewhere quick? You wouldn't.
Yeah, you wouldn't. The healthcare system, Mel and I were talking about that at breakfast as well. The healthcare system is, it's double-ended. You have to pay, and if you can't pay, you don't get good healthcare. And tribes and that won't be lifted out. There won't be a air ambulance or anything
But
like that.
Well, like we saw, they would try and remedy anything themselves.
Yeah.
They don't have spare techniques to try and fix anything. Or
Melanie had some cactus thorns in her hand and leg, and the remedy they recommended was aloe vera and castor oil as the two things to.
And the doctor that was travelling with us said, oh, he didn't really want to get involved because he said they'll know more about that than I do.
Yeah. So I think overall a good day, but overwhelming for everybody. I think myself included. It was a lot. Yeah.
I think it has been really good to have people travelling with us that we can ask questions to fill in the blanks and just to tell us a little bit more about culture, and the area as well.
Yeah. And also to ask about like not causing offence.
Yeah.
Very aware that I don't want to cause offence.
Now, we don't have to really ask because they're quite good at going, right, this is what's happening when we get out here.
Yeah.
Whatever, so they're proper.
It's like tour guides.
Yeah. I think, I think as well, the guys that were travelling with us, again, so Melanie and I had a really interesting chat at breakfast this morning. We're talking about that, the guys that we're with are changing Kenya for the better. They're trailblazing the kind of, equality for all and, challenging generational thinking and things like that. So I think they're really open to, sharing bits of their lives as well with us, but equally happy to.
They're doing community work.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It is like we were talking about that at breakfast a bit. It's like it's when they go in to do something, it doesn't matter who it's kind of directed at, the whole community is involved. And that's something that we don't do that nearly as well as they're doing that in terms of whatever anybody's learning. It's bringing the whole area, community, whatever. We're going to that thing quite often.